Today on Chapman On Air, we're sitting down with the person who built Chapman Insurance Group from the ground up, Brian Chapman, through the market cycles, the hurricanes, the growth, the setbacks, and the reinventions. So it's been a while since we've sat down like this, about 2 years.
Don't forget on that comment. It's Brian Chapman built it is that I'd say that one person is successful, but it takes many people to step in and make a successful organization. So I'll humbly accept your comment, but it's not all my doing.
Yeah,
so.
Well, I think we'll get more into that too, but your name is on the building.
It is the name is in the sign. Yeah.
Yes, but a lot has changed in the last 2 years since we've spoken, and we're going to dig into that a little bit, not just in the insurance market, but in CIG in general. Yeah. So today we're going to talk about what's happening now, where we're headed as a company, and what's being built behind the scenes, the moments, decisions, and the beliefs that shaped Chapman Insurance Group into what it is today.
Yeah, I would say the most difficult thing for an organization that desires to grow is to step out in faith. And in some ways, if you looked at it kind of in each step on a ladder, you have to operate as if you're already at the next step, even though you're not there yet. And that's a tough decision for a lot of businesses to make, because it's financially usually a heavy lift. And also it requires a lot of persistency and drive to get to that next rung on the ladder. So, the willingness to, one, take a step of faith and operate, if you're a $1 million organization, but you want to be 5 million, you have to start operating like you already are. And so, we made that decision 2021, didn't know we were going to have the largest hurricane in Florida's history impact us in 2022. But, that was an important decision in 21, because it allowed us to focus on a 10-year horizon and what we wanted to be in 10 years. We had a speed bump there in 2022, pausing us, but it made us ready because we were already, pursuing something. And so I think organizationally, like looking ahead and looking forward, we are operating as if we are on our way, maybe not operating where our 10-year plan puts us, but we're operating like 2 years ahead. And that's infrastructure, that's personnel, that's technology, and those things that you're operating, like a very simple example of this was when we were at a team member range of 30 to 35, it was like, we're going to need a human resource department. Mm-hmm. Now, did we need it as much as when we were now at 100? No, but we knew where we were going. And so we made the, strategic investment to develop a personal, human resource department, admin and billing or marketing. And so all of those departments that you will need, maybe not as impactful right away, but it's future planning and it's future projections and making those decisions to implement those things.
Yeah.
So I think the continuation of our plan, and that's, strategically looking at areas where we want to grow and market to and develop relationships in a community and embed ourselves in that community and that community's culture and connections and all the people that make up. And so that's the next phase is looking ahead, is where are we going to go and continue to, add a location or add personnel.
Yeah. And for anyone who hasn't listened to our other podcast from a few years ago, you were talking about where we were going to go. And now we're 2 years later. And I think we've hit.
Yeah. I mean, probably, from an optics standpoint, we were leasing in Fort Myers. Now we have one of the largest, most prominent pieces of real estate in Fort Myers. We operate in the second floor in a Fort Myers office. We acquired a Punta Gorda building. Helene and Milton pushed that a little bit faster. Our prior building that we were in was flooded, but fortunately we were already under contract for a new building. So we've got an anchor in Punta Gorda. Always had our anchor in Port Charlotte. That was our first location. Have an anchor in Cape Coral and have an anchor in Naples, and all 5 of those locations are ours, and we own and operate out of those locations.
Yeah, so we're here to stay.
We're here to stay. Tell people. We're not going anywhere.
We're definitely not going anywhere and growing. So I want to go back a little bit, the insider story. Let's go back to the beginning for the people who maybe are new to Southwest Florida and don't know much about Chapman Insurance Group. So take me to a moment in the early days where you thought to yourself, okay, this might actually work. And what was happening then?
Well, I think the mindset of failure is never really present. It's always in the background. So it's not that it's not there. It's just, you look at every individual situation and say, this is just the next problem to solve. And then, some problems are larger than others. Some take more time than others. I think the magic power when you're starting a business is your willingness to just stick to what you're doing and not look around and become an expert, become the best within a very specific lane, and don't deviate from that. Hold true to that. And you don't even have to have a great plan, but just don't get distracted. Don't look around at the shiny stuff or how you can look around at how someone else is doing and emulate that or mirror that. That you absolutely can do, but don't get distracted by additional endeavors. Become the best within the class of what you're doing.
Yeah. Right.
And so I think, we did that, and to the point where we gave up licenses that we had, securities license, financial license, mortgage broker license, and the original personnel, the vision was cast. This is who we're going to be. Let's not be distracted by maintaining these licenses that we have no desire in the immediate future to partake in. And so, that's just one strategic example where, we had 2 teamers with Series 6 license that they gave up. We had 2 team members with mortgage broker license that were given up. And it was because we were going to be so intentionally focused in the property and casualty space. And so that's just one early example. I think culturally, always value your people, always view your people as your greatest asset, and always make decisions around the impact on others within your company, within your culture specifically. So doesn't mean that they're not willing to adapt and change, but there have to be a lot of upfront and high level communications. Otherwise it feels very, very herky-jerky or very rider abusive, because at some point, if you change too many things too quickly, it creates real fatigue. And so I think, you start with 6 or 7 people, and, there's just not as many hands to conquer, and there's not as much division you can make to finish task. But such a special time when those 6 or 7 or 10 or 20 people are there, because it's a little bit simpler. And I think our greatest, drive as we continue to grow and you add a significant amount of personnel is, how do we still make it feel that way? Because the institutionalization that happens within a company can have significant cultural impacts. And so it just becomes more complicated as you add additional personnel, and intentionality, way more than when it's 6 or 7, has to be given to decisions that are made that could impact 20 people versus one person. And I think we have done a great job at that. I would say organizationally, and our connectivity within our culture, it's we're this really large organization that's trying to internally operate like a really close unit. And that is hard to do, but that is a very powerful weapon if you can accomplish it.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with some fast growth, which is what we've had here.
It's
an art.
It is very hard.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just going back again to the beginning, if you had to build CIG from scratch tomorrow, is there anything you would do differently? Any advice you would give to younger Brian?
Yeah, I mean, it's the Monday morning quarterback. How would I have done this different? I mean, certainly there are decisions that were made, personal decisions like with personnel. I think I don't know that they're wrapped in this regret blanket. So I don't know that there's anything where it's that one thing or this one thing. I would say more so what I would say is, what were the things that we did right? Because if you're doing well, you're doing 80 or 90% right. Mm-hmm. And you're thinking about the 10 or 20% that isn't that you didn't do right, or
which is inevitable.
It's there. I just think you really have to understand that, like, and this is maybe the one thing that I can say is, like, really embrace the small wins and the big wins at different stages of, the life cycle of the organization. Because we get caught up and it's like you've accomplished something and it's relatively significant, but you don't, pop the champagne or pause to feel good in that moment. Mm-hmm. And I was definitely not as, joyful in those moments as I should have been. And I think in hindsight, if you are getting 80 or 90% right, like that's pretty dang good. Yeah. And there's a lot of joy there, mm-hmm. and don't miss that joy.
Yeah. So you would have celebrated the smaller wins a little bit more.
I think it just would have made it just, those positive thoughts, the positive feelings, the team camaraderie that's around something that's accomplished together, and really just kind of sitting in that moment mm-hmm. for a day or a week and enjoying what was accomplished. Truly, like really feeling that joy. And it's hard to do that because when you're just trying to like go and you're all gas, it's hard to slow down and take those breaks of joy. And I think that, there's consequences to that, because if you don't pause and have that day of Sabbath where you like contemplate and have joy, you will burn out. You have to have those moments. And I just wish I could have captured more of those little small wins and victories along the way, where it's like let's just like enjoy this moment for like, even like 30 seconds. Yeah. Like, let's just enjoy this moment, right? And I think when you're all gas, it's hard to stop and pause and embrace that. And I wish I would have done that maybe a little bit more. So I don't know that that's necessarily a negative, but enjoy the victories along the way, because it is a marathon and it's 1 mile at a time. Mm-hmm. And you really have to just think of, I've just finished a mile, take a moment, take a breath, have joy, have celebration, and then get on to the second mile. But if you don't stop and have those moments, I think it feels like you're not doing anything right. Yeah. In fact, you are. It just, you're not embracing it.
Yeah. And where you're putting your energy, sometimes that grows too. So if you're only focusing on the negative thing.
It creates momentum.
Yeah.
It creates momentum.
For sure. Well, giving yourself that advice, do you feel like you're taking that advice right now with the growth?
I think so. I mean, I would say yes. Right now, with just the culture that we have, the community relationships we have, the carrier partners that we work with, our political involvement at a state level, mm-hmm. the relationships within the insurance industry itself, we very much feel like we are the tip of the spear as far as developing, emerging. We're 16 years old, but we're still like an emerging agency, and there's a lot of energy there, and that positivity is being looked at and being felt almost every day.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about that. So a lot of people do not realize, they know that we do insurance, they see what we're doing here in the community, but what Brian Chapman is doing behind the scenes to impact the insurance industry as a whole and the people of Southwest Florida. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think people have this insurance cloud that they live with, and the reality is like, actually a lot of insurance agencies and agents within the insurance agency are like, yeah, we get it. Like, mm-hmm. we understand it, because mm-hmm. we deal with that same problem. And so we connect really well with the consumer, and the consumer doesn't usually complain about their agent, right? It's the other parts of it. And so we are the conduit, like we're the best advocate for the consumer, mm-hmm. to fix industry issues, legislative issues, because we see both sides, mm-hmm. right? The consumer doesn't have all of the knowledge of those darn insurance companies. Mm-hmm. And we do, but we also have, so we get to play like the reason, we're like the mediator. Mm-hmm. And I think that allows us to see both sides of the situation and speak truth into what is fair, what is reasonable, what should be acceptable. And so our advocacy for the consumer is there. We just have to be willing to pick up that ball and go. And we have, and we are, in Tallahassee. We're having, conversations at our statewide insurance association. We're advocating for, consumer fairness, consumer pricing, consumer coverage. And so, we're here like presenting information, and there are times when we present information and it's the only thing available, it's the best thing available, but it's still not what we feel like it should be to best benefit the consumer. We have those conversations and say, these are the things we have to fix. They're not working. This is not good. This is not fair. This is not the intention of the law. We need to have modification here. And so protection for the consumer, advocacy for the consumer, protection for the consumer's wallet. I mean, these are all things that we like constantly. Now, there's an irony here, right? And I think what people don't capture and understand is that we are selling a product to a consumer that we are compensated based off of that product. And so the size of the premium, we theoretically make more, right? But it's very interesting because a lot of agents and agencies are of the mindset of doing what is right. Now, I can't say that for every insurance agency, and every insurance agent. But at Chapman Insurance Group, like we are advocating for the client, period. Like we don't look at, okay, if I put this client with this carrier, I get paid more. That is not the way that we view things. What is the best situation for the client for a reasonable rate? But the irony is that we're the ones up there advocating, and a lot of times we're advocating for better coverage, many times for rate considerations, right? So here we are, and it's kind of ironic that we're up here advocating for lower rates while we're the ones taking a pay cut, right? It's a really odd thing, but I think it just goes to the heart of insurance agents and insurance agents that really value the consumer relationship and our client relationship. And we don't look at it through the lens of, well, if I go and advocate for lower rates, I'm going to make less. That's just not how we look at it. And I think consumers, that's why they value their agent so much, because we really are looking out for their behalf. And I've always found it ironic that we're the ones in Tallahassee with hundreds or thousands of agents representing and advocating for the consumer. Not saying the carriers aren't involved at that level, but they operate a lot differently. They operate a lot differently. So
yeah. So speaking of advocacy, so that's a much higher level and definitely much more behind the scenes. Earlier, you spoke about the speed bump of 2022 that we all know very well as Hurricane Ian. We made some changes as an agency at that point to help the consumer, to help our clients. So can you speak to how we are advocating for our clients here within our agency and how that was born out of the speed bump?
Yeah, I mean, so internally, when we speak about a client, we actually define that as one of our fans. And we actually describe it as a steadfast fan. Right. And that's the lingo we use, our steadfast fans, our clients. And so we embarked realizing extremely quickly that we are going to have a lot of claims from Hurricane Ian, and we had to adapt. And at the same time, we were not having as significant of sales because real estate slowed down and there weren't as many transactions happening. And so we made the decision right there to say, okay, we are toning down the sales side of our organization. We are investing in our clients to get them through this Hurricane Ian fiasco. Try to advocate for them to get their claims paid. And so we actually created a claims department in that moment and said, we're going to go advocate for our thousands, almost 10,000 claims to solve their greatest need right now. And so we did that and developed that. And that is not the norm for insurance agencies. Now, I will tell you, there was a little bit of selfishness in this or marketing in this. But the idea was built around, if we can create a steadfast fan that understands that we're here through the hardest times, they will tell our story for us. And that will return to us. And so that was the reason we did it. Was we owed it to our clients, and two, they're our fans, and fans, tell other fans like this was a great experience and this is where you should go. And so that was a turning point for us that really just changed us from a sales organization, being a predominant factor for all organizations, to the real service, the genuine service model of understanding and fulfilling, a client expectation or maybe exceeding their expectation.
Yeah. The focus was then put on being remarkable to our clients as opposed to just marketing.
Well stated.
To our clients.
Well stated.
And then they do the marketing for you.
That's right. Then they tell your story. They tell your story.
Don't hate that. Yeah.
So.
Okay, so going back to 2023, we talked about the Naples building being in the future, a location there. Where are we at with that?
Yep, we're there. We have about 3,500 square feet in Naples. We're almost at capacity there with our personnel. I think we've got one or two free offices, and it's almost like our other markets. The people are normal people like Southwest Florida has, and homeowners and business owners, and it fits right into what we do well. We've got a great leader down there, Chapman, who's on our personal line side and developed a lot of relationships in advance of us going there. So we've got a ton of opportunity continued in Naples. Just need to get our voice out and get the consumer to understand who we are a little bit better, a little bit farther down that road. It typically takes us about 4 to 5 years to really saturate and season into a community, because there's complexities, and every community has things that are different, and different places of influence, and you have to kind of understand that, and then put a plan together, and then approach it, and it takes a couple years after you've gotten all that information to really get into the community, become the fabric of the community,
right,
and an anchor in the community.
And we're there to stay as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're all of our offices. If you're running a business and you buy a location, that should signal to the consumer they just put an anchor in the ground.
Right.
That stake is there, and it's there to stay.
Yeah.
And so absolutely, and it was our desire. It just took us a little bit longer, to find the right place and find the right piece of real estate. But absolutely, we're there to stay.
Yeah, and we found the great piece of real estate right off of Vanderbilt Beach Road, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So right there in the heart of Naples. Okay, so any new growth coming?
Yeah,
Talk about that.
our next phase, 2026 January launch is we're going across the state of Florida. Fits into our coastal Florida 10-year initiative south of I-4 and coastal Florida, so the bottom of the horseshoe. And we will be launching in Palm Beach County.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, looking forward to that. We'll be hearing more about that soon.
There's a lot more to come. We at this moment, real time, are under contract on a piece of real estate, again, putting an anchor down. And we will have personnel that will be running that office there, already relationships that are formed that are going to be executing on that. And it's going to plug right into our Chapman Insurance Group brand, our Chapman Insurance Group process, and we'll do it all over again.
Yeah. So it's kind of fun to sit here and talk about what you were saying 2 years ago or 3 years ago
here.
and being there. So let's look into the future 2 years from now. Give me some predictions, and then we'll see if it's right in 2 years.
Wow. I mean, the complexity of all the changes happening so fast and the availability for information so quickly makes it hard to look very far out into the future. Things that I can say is consumer access to product, consumer knowledge, consumer review of the information we are sending them has elevated immensely in the last 12 months. So people have a better understanding, which is great, of what they're buying and why it's important to them. And I think the more information that the consumer has access to, the better decision they can make for themselves. It's going to be very interesting to see if we can connect the consumer to a real rating environment where homeowners is complex. There's 70 plus carriers in Florida. Yeah. And so how do you go rate at 70 carriers? It'd take you a week. And if you don't know what you're doing, it might take you a month. Mm. And so if we can simplify the process there and somehow aggregate that process to where the consumer can input information in one place and receive a real-time valid, proposal, I could see that taking place. And whether the adoption takes place and the consumer trusts themselves enough to do that, mm-hmm. I don't know. It's got to be simple and it's got to be, straightforward. And that process takes a lot of tech and infrastructure to develop. But I could see a consumer being able to go almost direct to market, mm-hmm. and almost be able to get what they want when they want it in minutes versus hours or days.
Right.
And so that's a big revolution of change that I think we'll see take place potentially in the next couple of years. And that could be home insurance, that could be flood insurance, that could be auto insurance, and maybe condo unit owners. Mm-hmm. It's going to start in the personal lines world, and that's where the development's going to take place first.
Yeah. Extremely excited about that. Obviously, we try to simplify the process for our clients as much as possible. And we do that, and we meet them where they are at, right? So whether that's going onto our website and being able to access something like that in the future, which a lot of work goes into building out something like that, or speaking to someone on our team, and we simplify it as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, the human efficiency within an organization is always something we're chasing to make ourselves or individuals better.
Yeah.
And that's, there's a lot of repetitive tasks, and a lot of outside of insurance, a lot of organizations are looking at those repetitive tasks and saying, this is being done every single time, and it's requiring manual entry and maybe multiple manual entries in different places. How do I consolidate that and simplify this process, mm-hmm. right? And I think if organizations are willing to adapt to that, their efficiencies will go through the roof. And that's new business, that's service side. I mean, it can change the whole gamut for all industries. It's just leveraging those availabilities that are emerging very quickly.
Right. Well, we have a few more minutes left together, so I'm going to ask you some quick questions.
Got it.
Run through them. The Insurance Reset has become a signature campaign for us. So if you can just explain in a few sentences what that is, why now, why are we encouraging people to reset their insurance?
The insurance really went straight uphill in 2019, 2020. We saw the industry hemorrhaging in Florida. Mm-hmm. And it peaked in 23, 24. And what happened from a rate standpoint was probably unimaginable. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of legislation that was passed in December of 2022 because the state of Florida said, wow, we have to have a viable insurance market, mm-hmm. to function in Florida. Mm-hmm. And when they passed that legislation, it took about 2 years for that to fully, get into the market.
Right.
The changes, carrier profitability, it took about 2 years for that to evolve. The last 12 months have been an absolute turn over the top of the hill and in a downward direction. Mm-hmm. From a rate standpoint, a carrier availability standpoint, and overall competitiveness has significantly changed. And so our reset campaign is built around the idea of if you are still holding on to a policy that you bought in the last 5 years or 7 years, and you're just renewing that policy, you may be missing out on how much market correction has taken place, and it's time for you to reset your insurance.
Yeah.
And reset it by looking at your options that are available and not being, stuck with the one carrier that you've had. And I would even go as far to say, even if you had a great experience after a big claim, you still need to look at what is available and what options are out there. The whole landscape has changed, and it might be time to reset.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. A couple quick questions. We're going to run through these.
Let's go.
Your routine. How do you start your day?
Most days are cup of coffee, maybe 2.
Good answer. That's good quality beans.
A little bit of reading or contemplating, kind of a quiet moment. Workout. I usually work out in the morning. If I don't make it in the morning, sometimes I'll do lunch. Sometimes I'll do evening, but I prefer the morning because it gets the day started right. I'm usually in the office by 8:30, but we're always working before we actually get to the office. We're always, checking up on the emails from the night before. Ideal day is 50 different directions, unfortunately. Sometimes decisions inside of Chapman Insurance Group, sometimes decisions to support Chapman Insurance Group that don't have anything to do with the organization. A very little bit of time today still with clients for myself. And there are usually strategic meetings that I have that are consistently every week throughout the week at the same time on the same day. Varies by day. And ideally home at 5:36, but let's be honest, with 5 kids, home might be the stop before you go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so it depends on, in the fall season, it's 8 to 10 sport events a week, usually in the evenings.
Whew.
And
it's a whole other job.
then I have a little break over the holidays.
Yeah.
But then in the spring, we go right back to it.
Yeah.
So
Busy guy.
we're running around.
Busy guy. All right. What do you do to fill your well? Is there a certain book that you're reading right now, podcast that you listen to?
I love history, the historical context of different cultures, different perspectives. So I will find myself engaging in a documentary and, trying to cram in an episode here or there. I just love the fact that, there's great history, there's not so great history, but the things that we can learn from those moments are just, gives you a broader perspective, I think, as well, that someone else may have done this, and so how do I do this a little bit better? I love giving back to others. I didn't think I would ever be in a position where you're giving a best practice or instilling confidence or developing others or giving others ideas. But I do find myself enjoying that, wishing I could do more of that. So that's probably my buffer that I'll be trying to expand some time in. But because the interesting thing is when you do that, you actually learn a lot in that as well. Because there's a lot.
You gain a lot.
You gain a lot of information.
When you give a lot, you gain a lot.
Different perspective. You're like, oh, that's a really good idea. You just made this better than I thought I had. And so that's important. And then I would say, with 5 kids and 5 different ages and 5 different grades and different subset of friends, that the truths you instill in them, their value, their confidence, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And so if I'm trying to be a better parent, not that I go watch a bunch of parent videos, I do see somewhere I'm like, that is amazing and it touched my heart and I wish I could be more like that. And I see somewhere I think that's a terrible parent, but we leave that for a little bit of
keep
laughter.
The good ones. You put in your back
pocket.
I mean,
that investment in the next generation, specifically within my family, I mean, that takes a significant amount of focus and intentionality and building and engaging in that confidence within your kids it's rewarding later.
Yes. It's exhausting now.
They don't give it to you right now. They don't thank you right now. But we all had that experience in some way or another with someone that was influential in our life. So a lot of time spent there.
Yep. Well, thank you for answering all of our questions and giving some insight into the man behind Chapman Insurance Group. We do know it took a village. We know this, but like I said, it's your name on the building. So, yeah, thank you for sitting down with us, and I look forward to sitting down again in the future and seeing if your predictions have come true.
Glad to be here. Can't wait to create some more Steadfast fans.
All right. Thanks. Okay.